Hey everyone, welcome to It Tastes Different Gaming Appetizers. And what are we talking about this time? Well, are you afraid of the dark? How about being alone in the dark? That's a bad segue. Anyway, Alone in the Dark has delayed itself. It was previously planned for October 25th. This is the Alone in the Dark reboot, and they have delayed it. THQ Nordic decided to avoid the October rush of games, changing the date to January 16th of 2024 to give them some breathing room. As the publisher themselves put it, they're hoping to remain as alone in the dark as possible. That was a better saying than what I came up with. But yes, we talked about Alan Wake 2 delaying themselves out, right? And the only where Alan Wake 2 put themselves is the only game that they were competing with was Alone in the Dark, right? Around that time. So, but they are sandwiched in to some other big titles, right? So it would make sense that Alone in the Dark would want to move themselves out of that window and move themselves over to next year, right? Because I think out there, come around that time in October with Alone in the Dark and Alan Wake 2 being out there, I think Alan Wake 2 would beat Alone in the Dark as far as that goes, right? As far as that competition goes. Alone in the Dark is, it's a long franchise history of that game, but that game's always been, unfortunately, mediocre. Right. Every entry of Alone in the Dark. I mean, A New Nightmare is probably the best one. And that was on the PlayStation 1. I think that when that one came out, so that's probably the best Alone in the Dark game compared to all the other ones that came out. And so Alone in the Dark is kind of a niche game. And so is Alan Wake, right? We've only had one Alan Wake, but you have Remedy, who is a well-known developer, making Alan Wake 2. So I think more people are probably excited for Alan Wake 2. So those two kind of coming out at the same time, I would feel like Alan Wake 2 would probably outsell Alone in the Dark between those two in the competition. So I think it makes it better for Alone in the Dark to kind of put themselves in an area where maybe not any other games are out and they can just release, because I don't know what's coming out in January. I don't think I've looked that far enough, but I don't think much of anything or is coming out at that time. So that's perfect. If nothing else is really out there that people want to play, I'm sure there are games coming out, but probably not some big titles. And Alone in the Dark is just kind of sitting out there again, like they say, alone in the dark. Then I think more people will be like, okay, there's really nothing else, so I'll just pick up this Alone in the Dark game. I know that game from a long time ago, or whatever. So I'll just pick this up and we'll play that. I'll play that while I wait for other stuff to come out. So that makes perfect sense. October is the ideal month for, horror games. And this is a horror game. But in October, you have, a THQ Nordic specifically cited Alan Wake 2 and Spider-Man 2 as new releases. It would rather not launch alongside. So, they don't give a lot of, they don't have a lot of, they don't think their game is as good as these other ones, right? They don't give a lot of confidence to their Alone in the Dark title. But again, it makes a lot of sense, right? People know Spider-Man, people know Alan Wake. Alone in the Dark, people do know, but Alone in the Dark hasn't been around since, I think the last one came out on the, what was it? Was it the PS3? I think that was the last Alone in the Dark game that came out, or maybe it might have. Yeah, I think the PS3. I want to say so. Well, they had an Alone in the Dark Illumination that came out. That one's on Steam, and that game is mostly negative. So I never heard of Illumination except for when I was looking at Alone in the Dark game. So I didn't even know this one existed. That one came out in 2015. I think that was the last one, and that one did really, really bad. So before then, it was 2008 with Alone in the Dark, which came out on the PS3. So really, since the one on Steam, Illumination, which that again, I don't remember hearing about that game. I just remember one day looking at Alone in the Dark games and noticed it and was like, what the hell is this? It was, like I said, it's mostly negative on Steam. So clearly it's not very good. And that's why I probably didn't hear about it. Right. But the Alone in the Dark, since then, it was back on the PS3 and the Xbox 360. So it's been a long time. So I think a lot of people probably didn't hear about Illumination and, haven't seen an Alone in the Dark game since 2008 when it came out on the old consoles. So, you haven't been in the limelight or in the spotlight for quite a while. So, coming out brand new, yes, you're a reboot, but the people that are going to remember you are, the people our age still playing video games, whereas the newer generation may not know what the hell Alone in the Dark is, right? And just think it's a brand new game. They might be excited for it, but it doesn't have the hype, I don't think, behind it like Alan Wake and Spider-Man have, right? So what do you think about this, Pat? Do you think it was a good idea for Alone in the Dark to remain in the dark?
Well, we all know who owns THQ Nordic these days, and they have been close happy here lately. So I think THQ might be a little nervous, be like, if we don't provide Daddy some money, he's going to slap us around a little bit and close the door. So I think this is a really good idea for them. Right now it looks like the only competition they have in the month of January really is Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, and Tekken 8. There's a rugby game coming out as well, but I think the people that are going to play those are not necessarily in the same boat there. But yeah, THQ and all the others that are owned by Embracer are probably, crapping their pants a little bit right now, because of what Embracer's basically just been doing, shutting down studios left and right and layoffs and all this stuff because of their multi-billion-dollar deal that fell through. This mysterious deal. I think it's a smart move for them because, yeah, if I had to say out of the two that's going to get the majority of the people reviewing it, probably is going to be Alan Wake over Alone in the Dark. Alan Wake's a little more fresher in people's mind too, right? They've had more recent games and things like that. They've been in the press a lot more lately too. So I would say, yeah, it's a very smart move for them, especially since they don't want to get lost in the shuffle of all these major games. Spider-Man 2 and Alan Wake, and Alan Wake are just going to take over gamers' lives for a few weeks. And Alone in the Dark 2 may have been waited. People would probably wait for the bargain bin sale for that one. Like, oh yeah, I forgot about that one. Now look, it's on sale. I'm going to get it. So smart move by them. It just pushes it out, 2 more months, a little over 2 months. So, it's not one of those highly anticipated games on my end of the spectrum, but I'm pretty sure it is on a few other people's radar. So it doesn't really affect me that much. It just makes that in that grand scheme of where we were going to play stuff, I don't have to worry about that one because there's other games that are going to be taking its spot that, I'm like, cool. So this time of the year right now, we've had a stagnation of video games for the last couple of years, and the floodgates just kind of opened this last quarter of 2023. So there is more than enough stuff to play right now and not a lot of time to play. I think it's a smart move for them. Smart move for THQ Nordic because Papa Embracer is looking for a reason to throw them around a little bit, so don't piss off Daddy is what I'm trying to tell him. So yeah. I think they're probably thinking the same thing. Are we going to compete with these games? Probably not. We don't have a leg to stand on. Whether they think their game is good or not, they just hopefully know their competition is way more hyping on the hype train than they are. Because I had honestly forgotten until we were looking at our review cycles coming up that the new Alone in the Dark game was coming out. I forgot about it. Okay, so their marketing team's not doing a good enough job yet.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so you need to figure out what's up with that first. Why isn't their name more out in front of everybody? What is their marketing team not doing right that they need to fix so that it's out there? I don't know, man. I feel bad for them because it is kind of saying, hey, our game's not as good. But at the same time, what's THQ Nordic been doing to publish this game, to market it? Not much. So, I don't know if they're just in survival mode themselves, survival mode to keep their head down while Embracer's firing shots off and closing studios and laying people off. And I don't know. But I do think it's a smart move for them because they are not going to be able to compete with those games. And January right now is looking pretty bare. So it's definitely a good time for them to come out, especially Prince of Persia is about the only thing that's probably going to take time away from that. And I've not heard great things about the Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown as well. So they're probably in a really good spot, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And this, Alone in the Dark, the new one, is made by Pieces Interactive, who made 2 expansions for Titan Quest and Magicka 2. And that's all the games they've made, which are completely opposite games compared to this, right? Those are mainly top-down isometric games. And this is I think third person horror survival game, right?
Yeah. So I guess maybe Embracer will blame them because I do believe they're owned by Embracer, so as well.
Yeah.
So THQ is just going to publish it for them, but THQ is kind of fronting the money for all of this. So I wonder they're going to be like, no, it was his fault. They made this crappy game, even though THQ Nordic is supposed to be the publishing arm doing all the advertisements and hyping the game up, which they're not doing a great job of.
No, they're not, because I mean, I know of Alone in the Dark just because, well, I played all of the old ones and stuff like that, so I know about that. But yeah, I don't hear a lot about it. I've heard more about Alan Wake, more about Spider-Man, and those are more known too, because you have, like I said, with Alan Wake, you have Remedy who's doing it. For Spider-Man, you have and Remedy's made a lot of games. They did do Alan Wake, the remaster not too long ago. So it's a little bit more fresh in people's minds. And then, they did Control, and you have, people know Remedy from Max Payne, the original first 2 Max Paynes and stuff like that. And then you have Spider-Man 2, which, I mean, that's Insomniac, which everybody knows that company too. So you have all this name recognition with just the companies alone, the developers, right? And then you have their games coming out, and there's a lot of people that enjoy those games. So there's a lot more, they're doing a lot better marketing wise for those. But yeah, Alone in the Dark, all they have is David Hayter, or is it David Hayter? Is that what his name is? No, what's his name? The guy from Stranger Things. I can't, isn't it David something or other? I can't think of his name. I think David Hayter's a different person. I can't remember his name. Anyway, they got that guy in there. That one guy. He's in the Gran Turismo movie as well.
David Harbour.
There you go, Harbour. Yeah. I think David Hayter's a voice actor, but David Harbour. Yeah, there you go. So he's like, his likeness and his voice is one of the protagonists in Alone in the Dark. So they have him to kind of help market, this game coming out. But I mean, just having him alone is not going to do it. They did bring out that demo on the PlayStation 5, which I played, and it's not very long, and it's cool. It's like a prequel. It's very short. You play as like a little girl, and you go through this little small segment of the game, and it seems like it'll be pretty cool when it comes out. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see how good it does. Like I said, Alone in the Dark's always been kind of a middle of the road to not very good game, unfortunately. But the thing about Alone in the Dark is it's got a really cool concept, and it could be a really good game, right? They could really make that franchise be like one of those like Resident Evils, and it could turn into a franchise like all the other survival horror games kind of have in the past, right? Where you could have a new Alone in the Dark come out the next year, or a couple years later or whatever, and everyone's excited for it, right? Like Resident Evil and stuff like that. If they were just able to have a developer that can really bring to light a good story and atmosphere with these games. I mean, hopefully Pieces Interactive can do that with this, right? Magicka is a pretty cool game. I mean, the original one, I don't know if I ever played Magicka 2, but I remember the original one's pretty cool. And then Titan Quest, a lot of people like that. I don't know how the expansions did. They did Ragnarok, which I think did really well, expansion wise for Titan Quest. And then they did another expansion. I can't remember the name of the other one. But they did. I don't remember how many expansions Titan Quest had. Maybe they only had the 2. I'm not sure. I played the original Titan Quest, but I don't think I've played any expansions. But it's a really good like Diablo clone type game. And Magicka 2 is kind of a Diablo clone action or isometric RPG as well. So, maybe Pieces Interactive will do really well with this. I hope so. I hope Alone in the Dark ends up being a really good game. But I think it makes sense for them to move out of all the big titles. Because, I think with all the big titles coming out in October, I just don't think they would, not to say that people wouldn't want to play it. It's just, I think people would, we got Spider-Man, Alan Wake, we got Super Mario Wonder all coming out around that same time. And I think a lot of people would just be overwhelmed with everything else that Alone in the Dark would get put in the dark, and people would maybe pick it up later on, but not right away.
Get lost in the shuffle and forgot about until a sale comes along or something, I think.
Yeah, unfortunately. So I think it's best for them to move themselves out. And like you said, Embracer's looking to cut anybody for anything. So they've got to make sure. And plus it gives them a couple months to maybe clean up the game some more. Like, maybe do some more bug testing and play testing and stuff like that to make sure everything's good to go. I don't know if they've sent the game to, well, I guess it doesn't matter because they could just patch it if need be. So they could do some more bug patching or whatever like that. Have a day one patch that they introduce more bug fixes and stuff. That gives them a couple months to, work out any additional kinks for the game, before it releases. So,
yep. Now they're a little bit more alone in the dark where they're at. So,
a loner in the dark. Stupid. Anyway, do you have anything else you want to say about that? All right.
Nope. Leave me alone in the dark.
That's right. Leave him alone. He likes his dark. He likes the darkness. All right. Well, thanks to everybody for watching. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe if you're not already. Do us a favor. It helps out. Don't keep us alone in the dark. Hit that subscribe button. Also hit the bell notifications to stay up to date with new videos that you do all the time, or that we do all the time. Not you. We do. You might. I don't know. But also let us know down in the comments below. Are you excited for Alone in the Dark? Did you play some of the old ones? Are you excited for this new one? I think it'll be good. I hope so. I really hope so. I'm fingers crossed that it's good. But let us know down in the comments below what you think. Other than that, thanks for watching, everybody. See you next time.